another episode of the Gentleman's Brotherhood. My name is Juan Sepulveda, and I thank you for taking a few minutes to spend some time with us having conversations about what it means to be a man in the 21st century. Today, I have the pleasure of being here with an old friend and brother, Angel Millar. He is the author of the book, The Path of the Warrior Mystic, Being a Man in an Age of Chaos. A very appropriate time for us to have these kinds of conversations. And Angel, thank you so much for spending some time with me and the brothers here in the Gentleman's Brotherhood to learn a little bit more about being the warrior mystic.
Thank you very much. It's good to be speaking with you.
It's been a while. We've had, we've participated in live events together. We've been together in other podcasts. And typically the conversation revolves around our mutual fraternal orders that we belong to. But this is another intersection in our passions. This is another area in which we have an affinity. And it's the importance of developing the man into his higher self. So it's not a stretch for me to assume that your formation within the different fraternal orders had something to do with the development of this book. Can you elaborate on the connection between those two?
Yeah, sure. Well, my previous book, the one before this, was The Three Stages of Initiatic Spirituality, Craftsman, Warrior, Magician. So it's more evident there, the craft of Freemasonry, coming out of the sort of medieval stonemasons guild. You find similar societies around the world, of course, at least in pre-modern times. So that was an influence on that book, very definitely, especially in the craftsman section, where I look at Freemasonry, alchemy, Sufism, Islamic Neoplatonism, Kabbalah, etc. So in this one, in regard to the path of the warrior mystic, it was definitely an influence in my experience in Freemasonry, certainly. And one of the reasons why I wanted to write this book was traveling around the US very often to give talks to Masonic lodges and Masonic bodies. Talking to the members afterwards, it's really struck me that it's very rare for me to come across a man who feels that, he had a good guidance into manhood as a young man, by his father. I think, overwhelmingly from what I've seen, most fathers were sort of absentee, divorced, or just out of the picture entirely, or an alcoholic, or always in the office, or just emotionally absent, and with no sense of being able to kind of convey any kind of initiation into manhood. And from what I have seen, many men, I think quite honestly, probably the vast majority of men feel that they have had to make their own way to become men, and that there's been no path for them and no guidance for them, not even any kind of real example to follow. And I think that that's very difficult. And I think in our day and age, when men are blamed for every social ill and everything that goes wrong on the planet, that it's even more difficult to be, entering into manhood in a time when there's only criticisms.
That's a very, very important point, especially when you have the combination of men who haven't had a very good modeling, and also then are faced with a society that is chastising them for whatever misgivings they have. Now, in looking at the warrior culture, which you make a lot of references to ancient warriors, and you go all the way through history, talking about the influence that the warrior would have in the man. The biggest contrast is that in antiquity, you would have a good majority of the men of age. They would be involved at the very least in ancillary things related to the warrior. Whereas today we live in such an isolated society where I can just be behind a computer inside of a room for my
Yeah.
entire life.
Right.
Can you, especially in your investigation for the book, have you found anything that can help us get a glimpse or at least some sort of connection to that long lost camaraderie or guidance that came with the warrior culture?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's certainly difficult in this day and age, but there are different approaches to getting some kind of guidance or some kind of initiation into manhood. As you may have guessed from the subtitle of my previous book, I look at where I looked at the craftsman, warrior, magician, which you could very simplistically relate to mind, body, and spirit, of course. Although I looked at those because these are the sort of most ancient, or you might say archetypal vocations that men would go through in tribal societies throughout the course of their life. But certainly one way looking at the warrior would be to join a martial arts school. Many will teach not only physical discipline and fighting and self-defense, but will teach some will teach meditation, and many have a kind of tenets or code of conduct as well, which can be quite spiritual in nature. When I was practicing Nampai Chuan, Shaolin Kung Fu in England, for example, they had tenets, one of which was life is death, death is life. So it can get quite metaphysical, certainly. Another way certainly is to join some kind of initiatic brotherhood. Freemasonry would be the best known, and certainly the one with the longest history in the world today. And of course, taking up some kind of skill, some kind of craft as well. And, I think all three are important, actually. So
I do remember growing up, I did have some brief stint with martial arts. I practiced American Kempo. I practiced a little bit of Jeet Kune Do. And of course, as a young man in that moment where all my body is asking is for physical activity and adventure and all that kind of stuff, my approach was one-sided. It was just for that physical exertion, for that combat, for the challenge. But to my surprise, and I'm fortunate that I was able to obtain some of that, the discipline, the character building, the self-awareness. Like most of the times we don't necessarily associate martial arts or sports in that sense, or even team sports. We don't necessarily associate them with building that man's self-assurance and self-worth. But even today, some of that is missing for the young men. So I appreciate the recommendation to joining some sort of group like that helps people.
Yeah. Well, discipline is certainly essential for sure. Yeah.
Another thing that I was, when I was going through the book, there is one of these moments that is in the tale of Sir Gawain. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah.
And the Green Knight, where there's a very impactful challenge that is brought on. And I don't want to go into all the details of the story because I would like for people to actually get the book in and go through it. But you have this challenge. You have someone who comes in to what otherwise is a very cohesive group of people, and here comes an outside force and presents a challenge. There are so many little intricacies there of how does a man face that challenge? How can he subdue some of his impulse to actually just be rash and give in to the challenge without giving too much about the story? What could you tell us about that approach?
Sure. Well, without giving too much of the story away, so Gawain faces a particular challenge where the end result is he has to go to the Green Chapel in a year's time and face the Green Knight, where he is, at least he would believe that he is certain to be beheaded. So in other words, he is now in a situation where he will die a year from now, and then of course the Green Knight leaves and lets him find the Green Chapel on his own, and he doesn't have a map or anything, and no one knows where the Green Chapel is, so he has to go out into the wilderness where there's only wild animals and bandits, and look for the Green Chapel. And of course, the question that we might ask today is, well, why didn't he just go in the other direction or run away or whatever it was, or get lost in the wilderness? Why would you want to search for this place where you're going to be beheaded? And this brings us back to an idea that we're very familiar with, and that is one's word, right? He said that he would do it, so he's going to do it, even if it means death. And this is something that we don't really appreciate today sufficiently, or many people don't. Your word is everything, and it's not just that you make a promise to someone else. It's also that that you stand by your word, so that when it comes to your own self-discipline, you do what you promise yourself. And if you may have noticed, I'm sure we're both at an age where we probably occasionally come across people that we knew 20 or 30 years ago, and you undoubtedly have seen that people that always broke their word and broke their promises are usually kind of stuck in life, and they've not really gone anywhere. And how can you? Because you need to be someone who stands by what you say, not just because that helps you get on in life, because people can trust you and they regard you as trustworthy and someone who's solid that they can rely on, but also because when you say, I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. tomorrow and do that task that I need to do, you will be up at 5 a.m. because you've trained yourself to do what you say. So, that's essential. And I think that is a way into many things.
That's definitely a challenging thing. And I've had many conversations with members of the Gentleman's Brotherhood in which we discuss that very discipline of just keeping your word, not just to other people, but to yourself. That is hard. And you talk about that discipline, it comes through that training. What would you say is an effective way for you to train yourself to keep your word to your own self?
Yeah, well, really, it's like anything else that you practice, it just gets easier over time. So you have to kind of practice doing it. And, really, I mean, you can do practical things such as writing a list of all the things you need to do and going through it and make sure you've done everything. What I typically find, of course, is that you think you can do more in a day than you actually can. But so you kind of sometimes you have to let yourself off a little bit if you don't get all 10 things that you promised done. But you should know that, yes, you used every minute you could to get those things done, and the other 3 things or whatever will get done tomorrow. And things do come up as well. But yeah, it's really just a case of just practicing doing what you say you're going to do with yourself and with other people, of course, and not letting yourself off the hook.
That's good. Well, that's very important. Not letting yourself off the hook, because it doesn't always come coupled with the desire. And for me, it's very, very vivid that I don't always want to work on a task that I know I have to do. And having that expectation that the desire is met with the timeliness of the execution, it's not realistic. It's very rare that it coincides.
Yeah, that's right. Well, another thing you can do, of course, is to just promise yourself that you're going to do 5 minutes of something, because once you've made a start and you've got through 5 minutes, the chances are you're going to keep doing it for 30 minutes or an hour or whatever it is. It's always the starting that's the most difficult thing. So
That's the truth.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
that's the very truth.
and also, I meet, people periodically who tell me things like, well, I haven't been to the gym in 5 years because I don't have 2 hours to go to the gym, have really good workout sessions. It's going to take me an hour to get there and back. That's 3 hours out of my day. And it's like, well, why don't you do 10 minutes then? That's better than zero. Okay, it's not great, but you'll be much better off. At least that's over an hour in the course of a week. You have 10 minutes, right? But people make these big promises partly so that they have an excuse not to do anything. So if you make small promises, I'm only going to do 5 minutes, you'll do 30 minutes or an hour or 2 hours, because then you won't want to stop.
No, that's good practical advice. It's never, because you never feel like it. Don't wait to feel like
Oh yeah,
doing
no, for
it.
sure. No.
Just make the commitment when this
Yeah.
time, it's either time or a moment. When I get
Yeah.
home, I do this, or
Hmm.
as soon as I wake up, or at this
Yeah.
specific time. But like you said, just getting started is it's like a flywheel. It's just getting that first turn of the flywheel, and then just its momentum and the energy that you've built into it. It's already helping you move and propel
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Now, this also makes me think of the aspect of just giving in fully. So let's say, for example, your commitment is, oh, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z
Hmm.
by 10 a.m. And let's say 9:50 comes around and you're still halfway through task number or task
Hmm.
X. One tendency that we have that we can fall prey to is that, oh, you know what? Forget it. Today is just not going to be a good day. I'm not going to get anything done. And then the remainder of the day becomes just this chaotic, okay, whatever happens. Um, and it also happens with something else that I wanted to talk to you about, and it's the quality of your food.
Hmm.
Say
Yeah.
if you mess up in your breakfast because you went to meet with some friends and you had an extra French toast or something, it's all right.
Hear my cat.
It's all right. I got one here too. So, um, but you mess up on the first couple of steps, and the tendency is to, well, today is one of those days that I'm just going to chuck to, okay, I didn't do a good job.
Yeah.
But that's another opportunity for you to say, no, just because this first step or these first few increments were wasteful doesn't mean that the
Yeah.
rest of my day has to be dictated by that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, and then another thing you can do is, meditate for 5 minutes before you're even out of bed. And then the very first thing you've done is a success.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of set yourself up for success like that. And usually, very early in the morning, I write and meditate. And I usually write first, but if I'm and then I will meditate. But if I'm feel like I'm stuck or something, I might meditate earlier, because then I feel like, well, at least I'm not sitting here wasting time. I'm doing what I'm going to do anyway, and then I can get back to the writing after that. So, yeah.
How regimented are you with that morning routine?
Yeah, I'm pretty regimented.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, we're gonna
Yeah.
have to talk offline so that you can give me some pointers
Sure,
on that.
sure.
The I have a few that I have started and dropped. Right now, I'm in a moment. I'll be obviously very open with you. I'm in a moment where I'm in the chaos valley of my
Hmm.
ebb and flow of order and chaos. For many reasons, there's a lot of happening in my
Sure.
personal life and in my business, but the best that I have done is a very structured morning that includes reading, writing, meditating, some sort of physical exercise, and getting that done early, it just sets you up for success for the rest of the day.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Let's face it, we're all intrigued by the mysterious symbols of secret societies, fraternal orders, and mystery schools. Over the ages, these discreet organizations have shared their secrets with only a select few. Today, you have an exclusive opportunity to join a modern secret society and become a guardian of the secrets. Secret Society's NFT is a limited edition collection of unique NFTs that serve as your key to gaining access to a modern secret society. By owning one of these NFTs, you become a founding ambassador and gain access to special events, a community treasury, and additional utilities. To unlock the secrets, visit secretsocietiesnft.com.
Actually, I'm gonna give myself a commitment that tomorrow morning I'm gonna start that. I'm gonna hold myself accountable.
Good.
So continuing to talk about the necessary work, some of these things are coming from the chapter in the book called The Necessary Work. These are things that have to be prioritized, things that have to be given a level of importance because of the consequence and the impact they have on the rest of other areas of your life is significant. But there's a portion here where you said, just as food affects the way we feel physically, so too the ideas affect our mental stability, our emotional well-being, and our spirit or attitude. And I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about that because it's something that I have been talking to my kids recently about. And it's that whole my thoughts, my words, sometimes that self-talk that we tend to do. Could you give us a little bit of insight into what the warrior mystic should emulate in order to take control of some of those thoughts and words that have an effect in their lives?
Sure. Well, I think there are a few different things that are important, and one is hope. You may notice that different religions, from Islam, Buddhism, Christianity, all emphasize hope or being grateful or not thinking negative thoughts. So Islam talks about the importance of gratitude. Christianity, of course, hope is one of the three cardinal virtues. And the first line of the Dhammapada is about, thinking, not accusing other people of, being against you and attacking you, but of taking responsibility and taking responsibility for your thoughts and actions, and understanding that it's your thoughts that take you where you want to go or where you're going to go. So certainly, hope, gratitude for what you have. And, we all go through traumatic times and difficult times, but you still have to be grateful for what there is. Otherwise you would go crazy. And, this modern idea of positive thinking, it's, now associated with, sort of very feminine spirituality, where I pray to the universe and it's all kind of pink and it's, lovely and it's going to deliver whatever I want. But, the positive thinking wasn't always like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people get something out of that. But the reason to do it is because life is hard, actually, and you need every advantage or every weapon at your disposal that you can get. And so thinking about the future, understanding where you want to go, being able to visualize that, knowing what you're going to get out of it, moving towards a goal, all of these are very helpful. And certainly if you look at world-class athletes, whether it's Muhammad Ali or Mike Tyson or Tiger Woods or whatever have you, they've all used hypnosis and to to give them a vision of where they're going, or help them to see to that vision. And Mike Tyson, probably the most controversial, is perhaps the most interesting as well, because he was reading Nietzsche when he was 15, studying Zen Buddhism at the same time, reading the authors of positive thinking, and being hypnotized as well, and doing meditation. And that it wasn't just all brute strength and hours and hours of training. It was also this honing the mind to know where you want to go, and to be able to be disciplined every day and night, because he was up practicing at 2 a.m. as well, after practicing all day. So to have a goal, to know where you're going, to be grateful, and to have hope. These are all important, especially in dark times or in difficult circumstances. We want these things not because they're lovely and light, but because life is hard, and you need these things to get through these times.
Yeah, it can be that respite from what seems to be a relentless beating. And
yeah,
we've seen, especially with what we've gone through over the past couple of years with the COVID-19 pandemic, for many people, it really felt not just as a health attack. There was an affront in all realms, in the realms of mental health, in the realms of political, the political arena, and having somewhere to go. In this case, like what better place to go than into your own mind, taking some time by yourself, some quiet. I love your suggestion about gratitude, just being aware of, in the midst of all these negative things, what can I be grateful for?
Yeah, and it's not, and of course that's definitely a huge part of it. And there are gratitude practices where you sit down and close your eyes and meditate on what you're grateful for, or have to be grateful for, even if it's just your health or the day. But we will come across people that are very ungrateful in their lives, and treat other people with a real lack of gratitude, and can be very mean to people, and it's important not to treat people like that, really. Not to feel sorry for yourself, which is the easiest thing in the world, really. And we all go through tribulations and problems, and we are treated unfairly, but that doesn't help you. And when it comes to dealing with other people who may have treated you very unfairly, or spitefully, or hurt you in some way, I think we always have to realize that these people are acting out of weakness. And it's very difficult to see that, because we always, when we think about it, in a sense, we always envision them as powerful. That person hurt me, that person did this to me, as if they're the powerful person. But generally speaking, people who hurt other people aren't acting out of strength, or really never. They're acting out of weakness, their fears, their own childhood trauma that they never resolved. And you have to kind of recognize that that's what they're acting out of weakness, first of all, to get your strength back, but also to not be dwelling on it all the time, not being fixated with these other people, but being able to focus on your life again. If they're acting out of pain and sorrow and weakness, why would you want to wish them more harm? Forget about them and move on with your life.
Two things come to mind there. I really like how telling the expression of hurt people hurt people.
Yeah, that's right.
That it's very real. People that are, I have chatty cats here too. That's not a problem.
He wants treats.
If we had a cat translator, who knows if that cat is probably telling you some tips that work for him.
Assistance is his tip.
There you go. Yeah. But there's that hurt people. Going back to that thought, the element of compassion is also something that can be triggered when that happens. Instead of seeing that person as an adversary, you almost you give yourself ground to step back and see, oh wait, this person is in pain somehow. This person is
Yeah.
distressed for whatever reason.
Hmm.
And if you are also being a contributor to that hurt, then perhaps you can make different decisions, perhaps
Hmm.
find a way to help them not be a certain way.
Yeah.
Now, that sounds beautiful and all, but there are people that are beyond your, there's nothing that your compassion and your kindness can do to change them. And in that case, it is
Hmm.
important that you muster the strength to move on,
Yeah.
get past them and not let them be
Yeah.
your master.
No, that's right. And, of course, in a more extreme, people can be violent, and it's important not to be naive about it, which is why
Correct.
people should learn a self-defense, because,
Hmm.
you don't want to be in a situation with a psychopath in the dark night one day. So,
And trying to
or,
reason with them.
yeah, because that's not going to work.
Exactly. Excellent. No, that's very good. Now, another aspect that I wanted to visit with you in the chapter where you talk about developing a powerful self-image.
Yeah, yeah.
You talk about dressing in uniform. You talk about wearing your garments for a specific event, for a specific task.
Hmm.
I would like to
Yeah.
speak a little bit about that, because I think, especially now, for example, I'm
Hmm.
donning my Zoom casual. What is that?
Right.
So, uh, where people are spending more time at home, perhaps they're
Hmm.
not getting as many opportunities to
Yeah.
don their armor. What would you say
Yeah.
to those people now that being able to develop a self-image becomes more crucial?
Yeah, so clothing seems like it's an insignificant thing, but it's actually not. And if someone's used to wearing jeans and a t-shirt, when they wear a really well-made suit, they feel completely different. And just sticking with the suit very briefly, if you actually take a suit jacket apart, it's kind of fascinating, because you will notice that the arms have a slight curve to them. Uh, there's lots of layers of fabric in the chest that are all stitched, and actually the sleeve here is actually bigger than the armhole, which is where you get that roll. But if you analyze it, it's actually designed to fit the upright standing man, and if you deviate at all from that upright standing position with your arms at your sides, then the suit starts to crease. And why is it we use the term upright in a couple of different ways? One meaning to stand upright or vertical, and the other one meaning to be moral or circumspect. And notice that we don't think of a person who has really bad posture or is slouching, or you get on the subway and a person has their feet up on the chair and they're slouching with their armor. We don't think of that person as upright, really, do we? We already make a judgment about their character at the same time, not just their posture. And we think, I don't want to be around that kind of person. They seem like a shady individual, maybe slightly criminal or whatever. And so posture matters, and how you present yourself matters. And of course, with the traditional suit, that is made to literally put you in that position. And we think of it as a business suit, but it should really be called a gentleman's suit, because it's trying to bring out that quality. And this may sound a little strange, but if you look at women's clothing, they often wear a size too small, or that they something like 70 or 80% of women wear the wrong size bra. Men, I've noticed, wear suits that are too big for them. Their shoulders are out here, and there's lots of room around here. And you can see why women try to be smaller and men try to be bigger, right? Because men want to be big, I'm a big man, or whatever. Women, I'm a petite little lady. And it's but we view we look at other people and ourselves, it's almost in a symbolic way. So I'm wearing a suit, so that makes me, I feel like a businessman, or I'm an adult now, or I'm a man now because I'm wearing a suit. But or with a woman, well, I'm wearing a red dress, so I'm the sexy lady in the red dress or whatever. It's like trying to make ourselves symbols, and we look at other people like a symbol. You can see this with guys who they see a woman with blonde hair or something, and their like eyes light up, even if she's like not actually very attractive at all, but they'll sort of like, it'll become like a sort of fixation because that woman has the symbols, the blonde hair, the dress or whatever, and their mind is already racing, and they're not really looking at her, they're looking at the sort of image in their own mind. And but yeah, certainly clothing, if you understand it, and aesthetics, if you understand it, is a way that you can or help to sort of mold yourself and present yourself in a certain way. That's why, when you go for an interview or you give a public speech, you kind of dress a little nicer, right? It's not just to impress other people, although that's certainly in to present an image. It's also to put you in a kind of state of mind as well. So, and that's why you're in a different state of mind if you wear a martial arts gi, and then you wear a suit, and then you change into a jeans and a t-shirt. You're in a different state of mind for all of those, right? Or an army uniform. It kind of changes you, and people might think, well, you shouldn't judge someone by their appearance, but it's also a language. Like, what are you saying with that? When you put on a martial arts gi, you're saying it's time to do martial arts, right? So, or if you put on a suit, presumably it's for something like going to work, or you're having a meeting, or you have to give a talk, or whatever it is. So, the problem is you shouldn't judge someone like that's all they are forever, every minute of the day, but that person is conveying a message at that moment. Sure.
I like that. And I wanted to point out something for the people watching and listening. In most of our conversation, we have made the distinction between that external impact or influence that we have, and also the internal. So I think that's very important here when we're talking, and this kind of connects a little bit with part of our conversation earlier. One of the ways in which we can make it easier for us to keep our word to ourselves is to perhaps, let's say with the physical activity, if I tell myself, well, I'm going to hop on the bike in the morning and do my exercise, having my armament ready in the morning for me to just hop off of bed, wash my face, get on my don my suit for that occasion. I put myself in that mindset, and it may serve to some of the people listening. It's almost like you're tricking yourself. It's like, once you get dressed, let's say if you're going to go out jogging, once you lace up your shoes and you put everything, how likely are you to just say, you know what, I'm not going to do it?
Yeah, that's right.
Right? You're going out.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
Being able to arm yourself put yourself in that state of mind.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I like about this is, again, what you mentioned about putting yourself in that state of mind. Whenever I go out and give public speeches, or I go to visit a lodge or visit a company to speak to them, the way I'm already winning by the time that I'm leaving the hotel.
Yeah.
I'm already delivering my speech, and I use a lot of visualization. One thing that people that are close to me will attest is that I'll practice some of my speeches in front of the mirror, and I'll do my mannerisms, and I get very into it. But it's almost like I'm seeing myself doing it.
Right.
And this doesn't limit itself to just speeches. Sometimes there are decisions that I have to make, and being able to have that poise and have that
Mhm.
that physical language of I am making this happen.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
just takes you to a different place.
yeah, definitely.
So
Yeah.
I encourage people to experiment with that. If you haven't, pop yourself in in front of the mirror, don your best suit, and give your own self a pep talk about how you're gonna go out and conquer like a true warrior mystic.
Hmm.
So brother, I've been very happy to see the attention that the book is getting. I haven't finished it yet, but everything that I've read, it just lines up with the things that really get me excited about
Great.
that journey of
Yeah,
becoming a better man.
yeah.
What were some of the things that you would say stood out the most to you that weren't not just external, from you to help other people, but
Mhm.
acted more as I needed this in my life
Mm.
from the book?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I certainly needed martial arts, to be honest. I mean, I suppose in my childhood, I was kind of contradictory, and I was kind of fascinated by war movies and by war. But I was also probably after that, I was more interested in art and then in sort of alternative uh, youth subcultures, which were much more artistic and even sort of feminine in a way. And then I went to art college in London. Not immediately. I did all kinds of unpleasant jobs, and then I took up martial arts. And for me, it was definitely important to balance that sort of more artistic, sort of soft side, and to develop a sort of harsher sort of discipline, and develop my body, certainly to develop some aggression as well, and also to feel like, if something unpleasant did happen on the street, that I could probably handle myself, in most circumstances. Although I definitely recommend not being in those circumstances to begin with, or moving away from them if you
Yep.
can. But yeah, so that was important. I mean, the book itself is, everything in it, I think, I've applied it to myself or experienced it. So yeah, but that would definitely be a big one.
There's I have a series of emails that I send out to people who sign up to my newsletter
Mhm.
and something like that. And there's one message that I inevitably send to pretty much anybody who gets in contact with me. And it's talking about the proverbial mute button. You have a
Right.
chapter
Yeah.
called Technological Noise and Inner Silence,
Yeah, that's right.
especially today where the majority of the day we're looking at a screen, we
Hmm.
are listening to beeps from our phone, we're
Hmm.
getting a vibration on our wrist from
Yeah.
our watch. What would you say is the impact, positive or negative, that these things are having, and how can we deal with them?
Hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, there are certainly some positives, right? So one positive is remote work has become much more feasible. We can speak with people all across the globe, which would have been impossible 20 years ago.
Mhm.
And we have almost unlimited knowledge at our fingertips, including, all of the classical books of philosophy from, a couple of thousand years ago. So, that's all great if you can use it as a tool and use it wisely. The downside, of course, is the majority of people are spending, or at least a great number of people are spending it online, reinforcing their prejudices, whether they're on the left or the right, becoming more and more hysterical and irrational, and spending all their time hating on people that they know nothing about. So, and it's just, as much as it's not very good for society, it's also horrible for them because they're
Yeah.
just draining their energy. It's not, I mean, can you do anything after that if you spend 2 hours shouting at people on social media? Can you really do anything productive after that? Can you really have healthy relationships with other people? And probably not, and even in the physical world, I've known people who are perfectly normal, and then they will get themselves onto the subject of politics, and they look crazy and they sound crazy,
Mm-hmm.
and they suddenly start thinking about 50% of the population as as maniacs who are
Mm-hmm.
driven by hatred, and it's like, well, there seems to be plenty of hatred here for sure, but it's just this demonizing of people is horrendous, and it doesn't just cause problems, as they say in society. It causes the people that are thinking like this and acting like that, causes them problems. Noticeably over the last 40 years, creativity has been in measurable decline. There's a test called the Torrance test that measures creativity in children, and over the last 4 decades, it's gone down in America, each decade, incidentally. And and that's a big deal, because it's actually supposed to be a much better predictor than IQ of someone, whether they will become a doctor, lawyer, engineer, author, artist, whatever it may be. In other words, problem solvers and people who create culture, which are really what you need if you want your civilization to continue. And so it's definitely much worse than we might imagine, that creativity is in decline and has been for decades. But you don't really need a test to see that that's the case. Just not to be picking on young people, because obviously there are creative young people, that goes without saying, but the difference, the biggest difference is 30 years ago, all the way back before that, for as long as there was a conception of teenagers, which is only really the 20th century, but teenagers and 20 somethings created new cultures, whether it was rockabilly or psychobilly or punk or goth or mod or hip hop, whatever it was. And you think of hip hop, they created, they would make dance floors on the street out of cardboard boxes. They made a new music, new type of dance, and graffiti, a new type of art, all with no money at all. And but today it couldn't really happen, because everybody of that age is going to be on social media, taking selfies, worrying what the world will think about them. So clearly creativity is in decline. But what would that mean when they're 30, 40, 50? I don't know, but I don't think it's good.
It's not looking good. And recently I was having an epiphany where I wanted to build something. I build things out of wood, and it's something I do for myself, and I really enjoy it. I love it anyway, but I wanted to do something. I wanted to build. It was not something too difficult. It was just something that was going to require a few hours of my time. And I found myself procrastinating, and I kept on saying, do I buy one or do I make it? And I kept on saying, no, I'll browse online and see if I can find one. I could have built it. It was no problem. But the point is that I got to a moment where I realized how much time I've spent thinking about making it, thinking about buying it, and honestly, like spending time on Instagram or TikTok or whatever distracting thing. I said, if I spent that amount of time just building the damn thing, I would have been done by now. Right, I would have had 2 of them, maybe give one as a gift, right? And when I realized, it was almost as if I was able to step back and look at myself about how ridiculous I was being with the whole thing. And I thought, I made a commitment at that moment. I said, whatever it is that I want to make, whatever I want to build, I need to look at it and say, I would not have thought about it as much to spend an hour just browsing to Twitter and Instagram. If I spend that hour just creating or fixing or cleaning or building or crafting, whatever it is, it's time better spent.
Yeah, for sure.
So if for anyone listening to this, I hope that you can identify with that moment of trepidation and having that paralysis of not making a decision. If you're spending more than 20 minutes on YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, or whatever, just remember this. 20 minutes spent crafting a stool or putting a couple of brush strokes on your canvas, it's way better than losing yourself in a rabbit hole of cyber paralysis or whatever you want to call it. Angel, thank you so very much for the time you spent with me and for sharing some of your wisdom with the people of the Gentleman's Brotherhood. I want to encourage everyone to check it out. You can find this on Amazon or wherever you get your books. It's called The Path of the Warrior Mystic. And this is being a man in an age of chaos. Very, very interesting, very important material for today. So I encourage everyone to check it out. Angel is in basically is connected with me in all the social media. So if you have any questions, any comments about the content or the book, feel free to go ahead and connect that way. And Angel, I'm going to put links to your website and to the book in the show notes for anyone who wants it. Before we say goodbye, anything else you want to share with the Gentleman's Brotherhood?
No, just keep persisting.
Awesome. Thank you. We're committed to doing it, and we thank you for being a part of it.
Yeah. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. So to all of you, thank you so much for spending this time with us, and keep on working on yourself is the best time, the best thing you can do with your time. Continue to work to become a better man today. See you soon.